The federal programs outside the jurisdiction of this committee are certainly needed. We nonetheless must lead by example, and we will. The budget that was submitted by the administration for this subcommittee to consider, not including the Senate items, are under the architect of the Capitol for the Senate, is $3.6 billion, which is an increase of 6.8% over the last year's enacted level. So when you include the Senate, the request is at $4.7 billion, or an increase of just over 6% over last year's enacted level. Now, our job is going to be to scrutinize the request under our jurisdiction, and we'll continue to lead by example by being efficient, effective, and doing more with less as we have done in the past. I appreciate the hard work done to prepare these budget requests, and I look forward to the hearings from each of the agencies. Now, today we have with us the United States Capitol Police with us, the Chief of Police. Thank you for being here. Mr. Dine, Assistant Chief Matthew Verderosa. If I said that correctly,
yes,
who will be taking over as Chief. We congratulate you on March 20th.
Thank you,
and Mr. Braddock, the Chief Administrative Officer. Now, this will be Chief Dine's last testimony before this subcommittee, and we're grateful for your service, Chief, in your capacity now. I know it's since December 2012, it says here. You were appointed to serve as the Chief of Police for the United States Capitol Police. Now, during his tenure with the Capitol Police, he has overseen the 57th inaugural event of the President of the United States, 4 State of the Union addresses, thousands of visits from heads of states, dignitaries, and VIPs, joint meetings, summits, events, and demonstrations, over 30 million screenings for the Capitol complex in total, and the day-to-day operations of running a police department. Chief, well done. Thank you. All of us on the subcommittee would like to thank you for your hard work and your dedication to the safety and the security of the entire Capitol complex. And we would also like to thank the officers and the civilians of the Capitol Police for their service. Their presence has allowed members and staff to safely conduct the people's work and ensure that all visitors can safely enjoy this rich history of the Capitol that we all endure and love. Now, your budget request for fiscal 2017 is $409.6 million. This is an increase of just under $35 million, or around 9% over last year's level. Now, while we understand your critical mission to ensure that our nation's legislative and democratic process of government are conducted without disruption, our job obviously is to scrutinize this request and to make informed funding decisions as we move forward. So with that, I'd like to conclude my opening remarks and ask Ms. Wasserman-Schultz, the ranking member, if she has anything she'd like to add, and then certainly recognize the ranking member of the full committee afterwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Never know whether the light on or light off is working the microphone. Chief Dine, really, I want to echo the Chairman's sentiment and add to it. Your service has been remarkable. To come into an agency that you did not grow up in, so to speak, and take command the way you did and be able to steer us through the myriad of challenges that a police agency faces every single day really reflects incredibly well on your management skills, on the respect that your officers had for you, and we were very fortunate to be able to have you lead the Capitol Police through this last 4 years, and I can tell you that I personally wish you extremely well moving forward, and I've enjoyed the conversations that we've had and always appreciated how you were available, readily whenever we had questions, and gave us really thorough and frank responses, because we don't always get those in the political process. So I just can't thank you enough for your incredible service. Assistant Chief Verderosa, institutionalist, so to speak, and someone who did grow up inside the Capitol Police family, and looking forward to working with you and having the same kind of relationship that I have enjoyed with Chief Dine. As we're all aware, the Capitol Police was provided with the largest budget increase of any other agency in the fiscal year 2016 omnibus, $27 million, or 8% above fiscal year 2015. By comparison, the House was provided with a 0% increase, the Library of Congress a 1.5% increase, and the Government Accountability Office a 1.7% increase. The budget before us today requests an additional $34.6 million, or 9.2%, in addition to the $27 million just provided in December. Chief Dine, Assistant Chief Verderosa, we want security. But we want security not to the detriment of everything else that makes Congress work, including our staffs. And part of the difficulty is the inability to see a force that is preparing for current global threats. In fiscal year 2016's request, as part of your $27 million increase, a $4 million carve-out was fenced off until a plan was delivered by the Capitol Police Board. And the reason those funds were provided was to prepare for threats after the tragedies in Paris and San Bernardino. Before receiving the plan, I expected initiatives that were focused on preventing and recovering from the type of mass casualty events that we have unfortunately seen play out across the country and the globe. Instead, the plan that we received was to hire more police officers and place more magnetometers. That's no different than the basic Capitol Police budget, and far from the forward-thinking vision that we need to prepare for our worst-case scenarios in an ever-changing world. In addition, one-year infusions are meant to be just that, 1 year. Hiring officers is a 30-year financial commitment that grows with inflation each and every year. Chief Dine, as you prepare to depart, we once again need your frank assessment on how the agency is prioritizing its resources, and if we're being asked to fund a 20th century police force as our threats become more 21st century every year. Just as important is how the decisions that are being made within the department to prioritize funding. I'd like to understand the process by which those are made. If we're having outside forces come in and make decisions for you, that's something that I'd like to hear about during this hearing, and you should expect a healthy exchange from me during questioning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I look forward to their testimony.
Thank you, Ms. Wasserman Schultz, and I'm delighted to have with us the ranking member of the full committee, Ms. Lowy. Thank you for joining us.
I am delighted to be here, and I thank you very much, and I thank the ranking member. It's a pleasure to be with you both today, and I am delighted to join you in welcoming the witnesses. And thank you so much in advance for your testimony. I particularly want to join my colleagues in commending Chief Dine on your years of hard work and service. You've been instrumental in ensuring the safety of this campus, and as I mentioned before, it's a real challenge, and we are very, very grateful. You will be missed. And Chief Verderosa, I want to congratulate you on your appointment as Chief of Police, and we look forward to working together. Each year, my colleagues, between 3 and 5 million people from around the world visit the U.S. Capitol and surrounding buildings. The Capitol Police are tasked with protecting these sacred halls, and the visitors, school groups, advocates, members, and staff who come to the Capitol each day. This subcommittee has recognized the changing nature of global threats, has provided resources for the Capitol Police to prevent and respond to our worst-case scenario events. For all those who visit the Capitol, it is imperative that funding from the Legislative Branch Subcommittee be used wisely to reduce our risk or respond capably during and after any incident. Addressing these needs, including enhanced security, the cost of necessary repairs to aging buildings and infrastructure, preservation of the Library of Congress, among others, is imperative for members of Congress to meet the expectations of their constituents. During these years of austerity, perhaps some of these agencies and initiatives could have been better addressed had the majority not spent over $6 million on a partisan, political Benghazi investigation, $2.3 million defending the Defense of Marriage Act, and now hundreds of thousands more for legal action against the administration on the Affordable Care and Guantanamo Bay. Since the elections will be over for the majority of fiscal year 2017, I hope we can set aside some of those excessively partisan endeavors to adequately invest in the legitimate security priorities before this committee. So in closing, I want to thank you again, Chief Dine, for all your hard work, and I look forward to working with you. And Chief Verderosa, Good luck to you. We know of the enormous task ahead, and we look forward to working together. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Lowy. And Chief Dine, now if you'd like to give us a presentation of your written statement you've already submitted. I know that that's being submitted as part of the record, but we look forward to hearing from you as if you want to describe some of your plans looking ahead and your final hearing and testimony.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman Graves, Ranking Member Wasserman Schultz, and members of the committee. I'm honored to be here today, and I appreciate the opportunity to present the United States capital budget request for fiscal year 2017. Before I begin, I'd like to note that my full testimony, as you mentioned, outlining the department's request has been submitted for the record. I'm joined here today by Assistant Chief Matthew Verderosa, our Chief of Operations and soon-to-be Chief of Police, and Mr. Richard Braddock, our Chief Administrative Officer, as well as some members of my executive management team and our Inspector General, Faye Rapella. First, I'd like to thank the committee for its sustained and unwavering support for the United States Capitol Police. I would specifically like to express our appreciation to the committee and to the Congress for providing the necessary salaries and general expenses funding for fiscal year 2016 to support our personnel and operations. The women and men of the Capitol Police work tirelessly to ensure that the legislative process of our government functions without disruption or lapses in security or safety 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. But none of this would be possible without your support and that of the Capitol Police Board. The department's fiscal year 2017 request totals nearly $410 million and represents an overall increase of $35 million or 9% over the fiscal year 2016 enacted funding level of $375 million. The department's fiscal year 2017 personnel request reflects our continuous efforts at all levels of management to effectively and prudently manage our existing resources to achieve the best possible balance of staff versus overtime and to meet mission requirements. We are constantly analyzing our workforce to align job functions, assignments, workload, risk management, and organizational readiness, along with the ever-changing assessments and mandatory mission requirements within a dynamic environment. Our fiscal year 2017 request includes base funding for 1,823 sworn officers and 373 civilian positions. These are the staffing levels funded during fiscal year 2016. In addition, the request also includes half-a-year funding for an additional 72 officers and 51 civilians. With the rise of ISIL and continued efforts of Al-Qaeda and other terrorist organizations to attack public venues, as well as an increased occurrences of homegrown violent extremists and lone wolf-type episodes, we have seen a rise in the number of mass casualty events around the world and in the continental United States. Based on this rise in terrorist events and the tactics displayed by the assailants, the United States Capitol Police have once again reviewed its operational and tactical posture to ensure that the department is taking every measure possible to maintain the security of the Capitol complex while allowing the legislative process to continue to function in an open environment. In close coordination with the Capitol Police Board, the department believes that the implementation of security measures to better secure and screen within house garages, the full implementation of additional screening and pre-screening at various building access points, and the implementation of enhanced screening portals is necessary. Before requesting additional personnel, the department looked at its current mission load and worked closely with the Capitol Police Board to identify or modify or eliminate mission requirements in order to offset new mission requirements. Additionally, the department has reviewed duties currently performed by officers that could be civilianized in order to repurpose current officers to better meet operational requirements. Funding for 48 new civilian positions requested will be utilized for this civilianization process, and funding for 3 new civilian positions will support the increased physical security infrastructure. The funding request represents an overall increase of approximately 8% over FY 2016 salaries enacted level, which includes funding for the 2017 presidential inauguration, natural salary increases, additional staffing requirements, and increased overtime costs, since the department's current sworn staffing levels do not entirely provide the necessary resources to meet all our mission requirements. The second area I want to cover in some detail is our requested general expenses budget, which includes protective travel, hiring, outfitting, and training new sworn personnel, supplies and equipment, management systems, non-personnel presidential inauguration support, and other non-personnel needs. We are requesting $76 million for general expenses, which is an increase of $10 million over the fiscal year 2016 enacted level. The increase results from normal increases in operating costs, inauguration costs, cost to train, recruit, and outfit the new employees previously mentioned, the cost of life cycle key items and routine equipment systems, and the restoration of annual levels reduced in previous fiscal years to meet regular department needs. The request also includes an additional requirement to equip a fully functioning alternate command center. In closing, I'm very grateful for your time today. As you know, and as you mentioned, this is the last time I will appear before you representing this great organization. I've had the distinct pleasure of serving as the Chief of Police through one inauguration, 4 State of the Union addresses, 6 joint meetings of Congress, a historical event, the African Summit, which included over 50 heads of state at the Capitol, and as you noted, over 30 million screenings, over 600 demonstrations, the rollout of our new strategic plan, the achievement of the gold standard accreditation from the Commission on Accreditation in Law Enforcement, the implementation of our new digital encrypted radio system, the creation of a field commander program, the implementation of a new field training program for new officers, the completion of active shooter training for the entire department, the new hiring process for recruits, which has resulted in over 20,000 applications over the last 3 years, the hiring of a labor relations specialist to maximize labor management relations, the hiring of a new chief information officer, a new diversity officer, and a new communications director. And lastly, the implementation of a new communication practice to better communicate with you and the greater congressional community. All of this has been a possibility because of your support and the excellent work by the women and men of the United States Capitol Police. I'd like to make special note that all of this was done while keeping the congressional community safe. And so I'd like to thank the women and men of the USCP for their commitment to our mission and their unwavering dedication every day to ensuring the safety and security of our members, staff, and many visitors who come to the Capitol to see our great democracy in action. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I would be pleased to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you, Chief, for your testimony, and also you took a moment there to summarize your tenure and experience and a lot of the accomplishments you've seen and participated in. And I really, on the onset, only have one quick question for you, and then I'll go to Ms. Wasserman Schultz next. As you leave and as you're so to speak passing the baton here to your right, what challenges do you foresee that you feel comfortable in sharing? I mean, that are looking at us in the horizon, aside from monetary, budgetary, those kind of things, but more of just some of the physical threats or challenges you see and that we should be aware of.
Well, thank you, sir. That's a great question. I think the challenges we face are somewhat unique to this great organization. Police departments across the country face all types of challenges in terms of building trust with the communities they serve, and that's no different here. But as everyone here knows, we're essentially an anti-terrorist organization. We face asymmetrical threats. We face a threat posture now that is much less clear, I think, than it has been in the past. As is publicly known, our communication now is frankly in the dark. So we don't know what we don't know. And because, and rightly so, we protect an open campus. It requires people paying attention, and it does require a lot of resources. We are very much plugged into the intelligence community across the country at multiple levels, a number of task forces, and daily, every single day, we take the temperature of the threat posture. We also do that yearly as part of our own internal business process to see what type of budget we should build around these threats. So I think the challenges we face center around the fact that homegrown violent extremists are on the increase. The number of attacks over the years are on the increase. There's been 60 arrests of United States citizens since March of 2014 and August 2015. Since 9/11, there's been 144 terrorist plots. 85% of those have been since 2009. So
Terrorist plots on the Capitol?
no, across the country. Across the country. There's been 81 total arrests, ISIS-related arrests in the United States. So we face all of those challenges and the day-to-day challenges of keeping everyone here safe in an orderly, open, free environment. I will say on a daily basis, and we're very proud of this, and this is also something other departments face also, we really make the news of the fact that every day we protect people's rights to be heard and come here and express their First Amendment rights, and we manage those demonstrations with sophistication, I think, and communication and through teamwork. So you don't hear much about those. It does require coordination and sophistication. And as you know, we work very, very closely with the United States Secret Service, the United States Park Police, the FBI, the Metropolitan Police Department, pretty much all the agencies in the National Capital Region, as well as departments around the country when we engage in our dignitary protection efforts.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And I know that myself and many of the members of the subcommittee have had the opportunity to visit the headquarters, and we're greatly impressed with the assets, the intelligence, the information, all that you're working with and coordinating to keep this a safe environment, given all the threats you've identified. Knowing that we have votes coming up at some point later this afternoon, I respect everybody's opportunity to have questions here. And Ms. Wasserman Schultz, let's go to you next, and then we'll go around the room some.
Thank you very much. Chief, in my opening statement, I made mention of being surprised that an additional $4 million was provided in the omnibus. Those funds were fenced off specifically and require a committee approval before they're used. But again, as I mentioned, it's more officers and more magnetometers, 48 actually. And those funds are going to be used to hire, train, and equip those 48 sworn officers. Since the plan came up after your fiscal year 2017 request, does your budget need to be adjusted to pay for those officers? And you know, much has been made by many members about the need for us to return to regular order in both the appropriations process and the process that we're using to move legislation. And that, to me, is not representative of regular order by any means, especially when we're obligating, you know, a lot of money through the balance of an officer's career. It's not 1 year money. So if you could touch on that, and additionally, I want to ask you, as I asked you when we first had a chance to talk at one of these hearings about the Capitol Police Board, because if you recall, I asked your opinion of the Capitol Police Board and its structure, and you had only been on the job a couple of months and had good things to say, that there were positive reviews to the board's direction that they provided. So 3 years later, as you're departing this institution, I'd like that same assessment. How has the governance structure of the board worked? Has it allowed the chief to function in a way that enables reasonable planning, address appropriate security needs, and be held accountable for those decisions? And specifically in the FY 2017 request, how much of the Capitol Police budget would you estimate is due to direction from the board or the sergeant versus what your department has prioritized?
Thank you.
I told you it would be challenging.
You did, and you were correct. Thank you very much. I think the first and third answer sort of go together. It's a function of the threats we face, the timing of the threats, the timing of things that happened in Paris and San Bernardino, and also some long-standing issues within the Capitol complex, such as garage security. So that's been sort of a...
Have we faced a credible threat similar to San Bernardino or any other
the good news is
terrorist act?
The good news is we do not have at this time any current credible threat against the United States Capitol, although, as you know, there have been some. The challenge is we don't know what we don't know, and over the last 4 years, we've recovered 62 weapons, 60 tasers, 389 knives. Those are just some of the day-to-day police work, things that our officers do either at checkpoints or at traffic stops as they work to try to keep.
But how much of your request is due to your prioritization as the leader of the police force and your fellow officers, and direction from the Capitol Police Board or the sergeant?
So what we did, working with the Capitol Police Board, three priorities were identified. One was pre-screeners, which we believe helps keep the Capitol safe and would in a perfect world be the best way to deploy staff around the Capitol. Without getting into too much detail about our security, but people know we staff our posts. But in the best possible world, we would have multiple pre-screeners at multiple doors to both, frankly, see a threat coming and engage that threat outside. So that was one priority. The second priority was garage screening, and the third priority was the enhanced portal screening for the chambers. Those are done in conjunction with the Capitol Police Board and ultimately, the board's direction as we together sort of formulate those plans. So we formulated a strategic approach to address all three of those priorities. Hence the budget that was crafted. And the challenge, as you noted, is those are new tasks which require people. Now to do that, we have, as is noticed though, we've made a sort of a creative attempt to better utilize our manpower to see what functions we could civilianize, which is why the 48 civilians are in there, to literally take people, say from our communications division and our command center and some people from training and switch those out to be efficient and make the best use of our sworn personnel. So there's been a creative effort to try to do that and to take on these additional tasks.
What's the readiness state of the police? I mean, we've given you upwards of 8 to 10% increases with flatlining the other agencies. How many officers is the ideal number? I mean, we all want to be safe, and we want to keep the visitors that join us here safe, but it does seem that there is never an ideal number. And of course, and I remember, Mr. Chairman, when I was the chair of this subcommittee, and it's a question that I still ask any agency head to respond to, there's the gotta-haves and the nice-to-haves. I have seen many, many bells and whistles that are available to the Capitol Police, and I could see the value in each and every one of those. But when we have just come through a recession and there are real needs, we need to make sure that we're funding those real needs and not the bells and whistles that maybe could wait, so that we can fund the overall needs of an agency that, is an entire branch of our government.
Absolutely.
I know that's not your job to prioritize, but it is a question that's in need of an answer, because it's hard to know when you're ready.
It's a brilliant question, and it faces every chief in the country, and I think usually...
Brilliant question. Thank you very much.
Well, and I don't think there's a chief that knows, other than to ask for more, generally speaking, what that perfect number is. And in my previous lives, I've had that same conversation. I think it's in some ways it's easier for us because of the functions that we face, which are quite often specific. We have a number of posts that for a number of reasons, we have to staff. Because of the fact we have so many fixed posts and assign specific duties, it makes, for instance, training those people more of a challenge than it would your traditional police department, where you literally could take maybe half the people offline, and the people in a municipality might not even realize that there's half the people working for a 2-week period or a tour of duty.
Are you in a posture where you'll just ask for whatever we'll give you, and you'll take whatever we'll give you because you could always put it to good use?
No.
Or are you actually crafting a budget that is representative of what your actual needs are to be able to make sure that we can cover the Capitol complex and its security needs?
Well, first of all, we will always do the best we can with the resources that you give us, and we appreciate those resources. We feel like you take very good care of the department and the congressional community. That being said, that this budget and the budgets we craft are specifically crafted to meet the very specific and focused duties that we're being asked to do by the Capitol Police Board and our multiple stakeholders. They're literally, post by post by post, and we scrub every assignment and we scrub every post. We want to have a certain number of relief for those officers. We want to be able to have a response capability, and in fact, we want to be able to have multiple response capabilities, as we saw a couple of years ago when we had simultaneous disruptions in some hearings. We can't only have to have the ability to respond to one disruption, but we need to be able to respond to multiple places.
Chairman, I'll yield back. I have other questions, but I'll reserve them.
Thank you, Chief. And I think from the onset I mentioned there would be some scrutiny and questions, and as demonstrate with the brilliant questions coming from Ms. Wasserman Schultz, with brilliant answers, obviously, from the chief. Mr. Amadei has indicated he has no questions at this time, but
My work here is done, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Palazzo, next in the queue there.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our chief and our Capitol Police. You make us feel safe, not just here in D.C. and our staff and our families, but also at home, being very responsive to possible security situations. I'm glad to have you on our side. In 2014, I believe y'all upgraded to a new interoperable radio system after years of delay. You care to tell us is it working? Is it is it?
Thank you for that question. Yes, sir. I'm proud to say, because of the work of Mr. Braddock and his entire team, that system, the minute we turned it on, essentially has worked flawlessly. We're extremely proud of the way that system works. There's not a day that goes by as I'm traveling around on the campus or in the city or in the region where I don't marvel at the effectiveness of that system. Or just the other day, we were in a tunnel and there were some accidents there, and we stopped to deal with that. So it works pretty much everywhere. But it's built to be continually improved and upgraded as necessary as we need to put things online. So thank you for your support for that system, and yes, it is working very, very well. We're very proud of it.
Anything else?
I yield back.
Wow.
Well, I did, Mr. Chairman, I do have some questions. So if we ever do a more secret, it's probably more about the operations and the things that we don't see on a daily basis that they're probably doing to keep us safe.
Yeah. All right.
But I don't think this would be.
That might be a different setting, yes. Mr. Farr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope that after the votes will come back, because this is a $500 million budget here, and we haven't even talked about the architect of the Capitol.
I appreciate you bringing, that is the plan. Probably likely after your question, we'll see, maybe Mr. Jenkins will have a question, and then we can go vote. We'll suspend, recess for a moment, and then return. Yes,
Well, I'd like to echo Chief Dine and the others in your incredible public service.
Thank you, sir.
And I want to also thank you for allowing the kids to sled on the north slope after, west slope after the snowmageddon. I think that was a great uplift for the hill, and I appreciate your tolerance in that.
Thank you.
You know, you just laid out, I mean, you've built an empire since you've been here, and that's a good thing. I think people in charge need to build empires. But it also, when you talk about an open campus, I also would argue that it's less open. I mean, the garages are less open because we've closed permanent doors in Longworth and Rayburn garages. We've closed hallways. We now want to put a magnetometer in officers in the garage off of Longworth. And I'm concerned because right now as we speak, and somebody just sent me a video, a picture of the long line outside of Longworth. All this week, people have been out there, and last week when in the rain, out to the sidewalk. You haven't changed the number of officers in that long. You have 2 magnetometers there, and only one is ever open. The same number of officers are on there. And we keep giving you, last year we gave you more officers. You know, where it's not, this building is owned by the American public, not by us in Congress. They lend us these jobs, and incur, we hire you. But our function for all of us here is to make government accessible and petitionable and all of those things. And I know we have to have all this security. We have to have good security. But I'm concerned about sort of the mission creep, and I want to get into some questions. One of them is that, and I asked this last year, but I don't know if I got an answer, about how many law enforcement agencies are there, including all the federal agencies, the Park Service, police, and the White House, and both uniform and uniform. How many law enforcement agencies are there in the District of Columbia?
There are about 32, I believe.
32 separate law
I
enforcement.
believe so.
And do you have interoperable agreements with them, like the fire department does on backup responding?
Yes, we work very closely with many or most of them. We have interoperability with our radio system with many of them, and we do support each other. And I think as time has passed, since I was actually, as you may recall, with the DC Police Department during 9/11 After that, departments frankly began to communicate better, and I think each of us also began to, sort of a double-edged answer, carve out our role and responsibility.
Well, as I understand, last year when you were asking for the increase, it was for overtime, and the overtime was being paid because we had to release officers on these new special duties. We have K-9 team, we have a chemical team, we have a SWAT team, we have all kinds of different teams, and officers have to be specially trained for that, and we give them overtime, and we suggested that perhaps, mutual aid agreements that these 32 departments together could probably respond to a lot of these specialty needs without having to have our own in our own silo and everything in-house. I mean, this is the kind of problem the government has everywhere, is we just need more of this, we need to do more, whatever we're doing. And we're coming, I mean, as Congress points out, we're coming to the end of the line of that, and we're really looking for a building of more cost-effective collaboratives.
And we do that during our national security special events. There's great cooperation and teamwork among all of the agencies. I think the challenge we face from a day-to-day perspective, those functions you just mentioned, those are daily tasks that we have to engage in at that time. There are layers.
Don't each of those 32 agencies have to do the same thing? I mean, then Metropolitan Police, which surrounds us, you have a 4-block jurisdiction that they're responsible for everything in that and outside.
Right, but their role and responsibilities are different. So where our role and responsibilities are detecting both vehicle-borne explosives and personal-borne explosives, the Metropolitan Police Department deals with other issues. So the challenges we face are separate and distinct in that regard, and I don't think any of them, I know that none of them have the ability to take on those functions for us. The overtime, as we often say at our budget hearings, we actually have more mission than we have people, which is why there's always some building.
Well, that's what I'm kind of hinting at, that maybe some of that mission ought to be more shared and more mutually responsive than just standalone here. When
Mr.
you were in
Farr,
my,
before you go into your next question, I'm watching the vote
wanna
clock
go vote?
behind you a little bit, and Mr. Jenkins, if he could get in any kind of comment or question you have before we recess and come back.
Okay.
The chief and his team will still be here, and we'll continue, if
Okay,
that's okay
thank you.
with Mr. Farr. Mr. Jenkins.
Just like those who are looking forward to retirement, they can count the days, the hours, and the minute. We watch as well. Chief, thank you for outstanding service. We wish you the very, very best. Thank you for all you've done to keep us safe and the public who comes to visit. So thank you for your service. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. Well, if let's committee just stand in recess until we return, and we'll be back in not too long, I would hope, maybe 10, 15 minutes, Chief. And so thank you all very much. We'll stand in recess.
We're going to call the meeting back to order. Thanks, Chief and Mr. Assistant Chief and Mr. Braddock for your patience. I understand, Chief, you have to leave at 2:45. So we're going to start with the gentleman from California. I think had some other questions, so
Thank you.
please proceed.
Thank you very much. When you were in the office last Friday, we were talking about the new magnetometers that were going to be placed in the Longworth building and the personnel that would be needed for that, for the Longworth garage. And you indicated that that you would need no new personnel to staff those. You would arrange it, it would be budget neutral. Well, I see in this budget that you have 72 new officers. So which is it? Is it budget neutral, no new staff, or 72 new officers? Is it budget neutral when you're requesting 5.7 million more? I don't think that those magnetometers and officers truly are budget neutral. And I guess what I'm concerned about, because I've heard some discussions around here, when you talked about, I don't think you talked about it, I think the Sergeant of Arms talked more about it, was the need for these. But I'm just curious as to where this suggestion originated. Was it something that came out of law enforcement, or was it something that came more out of staff in Congress, leadership staff? Who comes and says, we need this in light of San Bernardino, we need this? I'm getting a feeling that some of this pressure on you is not necessarily originated in law enforcement circles.
Well, there's probably a couple answers to that. As you know,
You and I are leaving, so we can say these things.
it's been, I think, an identified vulnerability for a number of years, probably over 10 years. That being said, we work very closely with the board, and as you know, each board member, even though I'm a member of the board, I'm a non-voting member, and each board member has their own role and responsibilities for their constituents. And I think that was a priority of the House as well, and we worked with the board as a whole to craft, in addition to our own force development process. Every year we go through our own internal process to identify threats and vulnerabilities to build our budget.
Well, I appreciate that. I think what Congressman Wasserman Schultz was talking about is the board and its role, and because I think, Mr. Chairman, one of the things that we need to do in Congress, I mean, obviously everything we do in government, every agency is in sort of a mission creep, but, we gave no COLA to our employees last year. These costs by the architect of the Capitals, I think it's about forget the percentage increase, but it's a substantial percentage increase, and by the Capitol Police, it's a almost 10% increase. We're taking this, it's all about safety and morale, but what happens with these crazy gun shooters is that it's morale. And, I think we can secure ourselves beyond necessity, at the same time leaves ourselves vulnerable for disgruntled people. So I do think you always have to balance that. So I just wonder whether these new, particularly setting up a magnetometer in the Longworth garage exit, when they've already have to go in with your own car, you have to show your own ID, nobody can be in that car without an ID. They look in your trunk, you park your car, you get out, now you got to do it all over again. You and your person. That's our staff. In fact, you're going to hear, because I just, being late to this, I rushed Rochelle through the security downstairs because people said when you're in a hurry and your chief of staff is with you, you can do that. And the officer called me out, wanted to know my name, took it down, I gave it to him, and he said, he's going to talk to you about it. So you say, well, that far, he's just a troublemaker anyway. But I think that I think what we're doing in this is we're questioning the loyalty of our own staff. And you're only going to put this in one garage, in one place. It's not going to be done in the Rayburn garage. So why not wait and put people right now ought to be opening up those doors so when the public's trying to get into Longworth, they can get in. and probably Cannon as well, and Rayburn. I mean, this door, if we need more officers for the doors, that's fine, but do we need more officers to check our staff? I'm not with it. Let me just ask you one last question, because then I know, and then I'm finished. When we were talking, I went back and looked at the stated priorities of the department, and your stated priority is to provide comprehensive internal assessment capability to identify and invalidate threats. Is it true that there are members of Congress who carry concealed weapons on campus and even in the House chamber?
I don't know that for a fact.
Do they carry concealed weapons? Some members.
I believe some members have concealed carry permits, but as
You
to
don't know about those?
how they carry them or where they and when they carry them, I'm not aware of that.
Can they get into their offices with those weapons?
They're allowed to have them in their offices. How they get them there would be a subject of question. But they are allowed to have them in their
Do you know
offices.
every member who has one?
No, sir.
Isn't that part of your role, under your responsibility to know?
That would be interesting information to have.
Well, interesting, it's essential. Here we are trying to create a really secure campus, and perimeter security is the best. We're doing this perimeter plus internal, and we don't even know how many members are essentially violating the rules. They have law, I mean, the law allows them to have a concealed weapon, I guess, but not necessary to bring that weapon into the house, and certainly not on the floor.
They may, in fact, be comporting with the rules, and this is probably one place where the sergeant-at-arms, the role of the sergeant-at-arms does come into play, since they're the direct liaison to the members.
Would carrying a weapon onto the House floor be committing a legal act?
That would be something I think that the sergeant-at-arms and we would not want to have happen.
Maybe with the sergeant here tomorrow, we can get to the bottom of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything from the gentleman from Missouri?
Missouri?
Mississippi.
I've already asked my question.
Thank
Been
you.
answered, so thank you.
Gentlelady from Florida.
Thank you very much. Chief, I want to just go more specifically into the issue of the house garages and the security screenings that are in the process of being implemented, or at least getting ready to be implemented. Why has the security in the house garages suddenly gone through an implementation process that did not go through the normal appropriations process, was never discussed by any elected member of Congress, hasn't gone through regular order or allowed us to prioritize how much that would cost compared to competing needs? It's causing shifts of officers and caused what I would view as a shoddy, disorderly process that ultimately will likely not result in our being able to make sure that the security goals are achieved, rather than going through an orderly process that allows for people who are elected to make funding decisions and who are selected for this committee to do that, can do our jobs. So I have several questions in that category. Will the screening of staff at garages mean that the screening of staff and visitors at the Cannon and Rayburn tunnels are going to be eliminated? And, for example, the Senate screens all the staff, and so they have closed out the screening in other places because they have one sort of central point. I know they screen a lot less people than we do.
Yes, ma'am. Ultimately, yes. The answer to that is long-term.
Well,
yes.
Okay, I thought that would be your answer. We're only in the process of trying to do this in Longworth. So, how are you going to achieve that if we're not doing Rayburn, which has like 80 doors inside the garage? And now are members going to, and look, let me preface this by saying, I am absolutely 100% behind necessary security measures. I mean, we absolutely should do that. But we have a process that exists for us to follow as appropriators, and it's not been followed. And now you're having to come up with, how many officers that you're having to shift midstream that you haven't planned for, that you're going to leave wherever they were uncovered or covered by something else or someone else. So why would we partially implement garage security project? It seems to me like you do it all, or you don't do it, or you don't do any of it until you can do it all. What's the total startup cost to fully implement garage security? How much is it going to cost us in staffing each year after it's up and running? Because it's not just the costs now. That's a good one for starters.
I think the timing is a function of a couple things. What has happened recently across the country, and as well as working with the board, and as I mentioned.
But what's the urgency? I mean, do we have, you mentioned earlier, we don't have a credible threat. There isn't a concern that, of course, anything could happen at any time, and you always have to be ready. But we're 15 years past 9/11, and we've been functioning, and it's been a concern the whole time, but we've been functioning without that security at the garages. What is the all-fire emergency that it has to be done outside the appropriations process, outside regular order, and essentially, where did this come from?
As we work with the board in terms of our own internal force development process and threat assessment, then we also work with the individual board members and their desires as it relates to their stakeholders. And this clearly was a desire on the part of the House Sergeant at Arms to move this forward as
I just met with the House Sergeant at Arms in my office, and without discussing our conversation, that's not my understanding. Where did this come from?
Well, that's with whom we work, is the Capitol Police Board and the various Sergeant at Arms.
And I know you are just doing your job, and you have to follow the direction that you're given. But I would like someone, Mr. Chairman, I realize you're not you're the acting chairman for the moment, but I absolutely would like an explanation as to why we have gone outside regular order, why no one on the Capitol Police Board is elected to anything. And, we have an Appropriations Committee for a reason, and we're the ones that spend time over many years prioritizing what our needs are. And perhaps we would decide that this is an urgent need that has to be done immediately. But then we could prioritize where we shift funds, how we decide what's going to be at the top of the priority list, and what we reduce, down lower if this is an all-fire emergency. But it's not been an all-fire emergency for 15 years, so I don't know how it is now. And so I need a more specific explanation, which I'm happy to ask to further explore with the sergeant when he's here tomorrow. But Mr. Chairman, this is no way to run a rodeo, and this might prove to be a need that is more urgent than it has been up to now. But that's our responsibility as appropriators to make that decision, not for it to be imposed upon us and dropped in the middle of what we all committed to, and that I heard the leadership, pledge fealty to, when the current speaker took his office, that we were going to return to regular order. And this is anything but that, and it is a very significant amount of money, millions upon millions of dollars committed many years in the future. I think you've asked for something like 57 officers to cover this, and they serve until they're 57. That's 57 officers who will serve until 57. That's a very large commitment to never actually go through the planning process that we have here. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like you, if you could relay to Chairman Graves that I'd like to have my questions submitted for the record, and whoever is responsible for beginning the process of the House Garage Security Project outside of the Appropriations Committee should be asked and required to answer our questions, my questions.
Thank you.
Chief, I want to thank you for your responsiveness to request to me, which kind of ties into the ranking member's stuff in terms of, and I know you're getting a little loose in the saddle or whatever, but I do appreciate the fact that having got a C or above in civics, I think I understand something about oversight. So perhaps, we've had some luck with this in the future, subject to the chairman's approval. If we ask you to put together a briefing with you and the Sergeant at Arms, we'll have a chance to ask him tomorrow, to schedule that, as opposed to a letter which, in my experience, nobody else's, tends to take about a quarter of most congressional members' terms around here, not your agency specifically, but that we could put together a briefing perhaps and get Sergeant at Arms in the room, you guys in the room,
Very
to
helpful.
basically have that discussion. If that's appropriate, we'll forward that on to the chairman, see if we can't get that done before you go join the Older I Get, the Better I Was Club.
Mr. Amadei, are you suggesting that we come back together so that we can have that conversation?
Well, my thought
We
is...
could even do it in closed session.
is we'll just set a meeting, and the members that are interested in it attend the meeting and can have the discussion.
Right, that would be
Okay,
extremely helpful.
great. Chief, we kept you for 3 minutes, but over the course of how many years, that's probably about as good as it gets in this part of the, so thank you for your service, and thank you,
sir.
folks.
Thank you all for your support.
As always, members can submit questions in writing. We'll work on that briefing.
Can you answer that question on the budget neutral, whether it's budget neutral or not?
Right now it is, but long-term, clearly, it is not, because we're taking on new tasks. So right now, in the short term, as ranking member said, we're moving folks around and trying to make the best use of the resources we have to implement this as asked. Long-term,
So you
obviously.
don't need the 72 officers for this?
No, we will long-term, because we are taking on new tasks, we will, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. This section of the meeting is adjourned.
New officers.
Chief, next time we see you, we're trying to get as much shoved on to poor Chief Dine as we can. I want you to make note of it. I've been taking notes. Preparing for these.
They just went out to 32.